Alaska's prisons are located in one of the coldest and harshest environments in the world. During winter, temperatures can fall far below freezing, sometimes reaching dangerous levels that threaten human survival. Heavy snowfall, icy winds, and powerful blizzards make the environment extremely difficult for both prisoners and prison staff. Unlike ordinary prisons, where the main challenge is confinement, Alaska's prisons force inmates to face nature's brutality every single day. The cold affects every aspect of life inside the prison. Prisoners must wear multiple layers of clothing to avoid frostbite and hypothermia. Even short exposure to freezing air can become dangerous. Snow and ice cover prison yards, walls, and pathways, making movement difficult and increasing the risk of accidents. Basic outdoor activities become exhausting because the human body loses energy quickly in such low temperatures. Another major challenge is the long winter darkness. In some parts of Alaska, sunlight is limited for weeks or even months. This lack of natural light creates a gloomy and depressing atmosphere inside the prison. Inmates often struggle with loneliness, sadness, and emotional stress because the endless darkness affects mental health. The environment can feel cold not only physically, but emotionally as well. The prison infrastructure must also constantly fight against the climate. Heating systems are essential for survival, and any failure can quickly turn into a life-threatening emergency. Ice buildup can damage fences, roads, and buildings, while storms may interrupt transportation and supplies. Guards and maintenance workers face constant pressure to keep the facility functioning despite the extreme weather conditions. Food deliveries, medical support, and communication with the outside world can also become difficult during severe storms. Some prisons may feel completely isolated from nearby towns when roads are blocked by snow. This isolation increases tension among inmates and staff because they know help may not arrive quickly during emergencies. Extreme cold also changes the behavior of people inside the prison. Harsh weather increases stress levels, frustration, and aggression. The freezing environment becomes a constant reminder of discomfort and survival. Every day is a struggle against both imprisonment and the unforgiving climate surrounding the facility. Survival inside Alaska's deadliest prison is far more complicated than simply following prison rules. Every day presents physical, emotional, and environmental challenges that force inmates and prison staff to remain alert at all times. The combination of dangerous cold weather, strict prison conditions, and constant mental pressure creates an environment where even small mistakes can have serious consequences. One of the biggest survival challenges is adapting to the freezing temperatures. Prisoners must learn how to protect themselves from frostbite, hypothermia, and other cold-related illnesses. Proper clothing becomes essential, and inmates often rely on heavy jackets, gloves, boots, and thermal layers just to move safely through outdoor areas. Exposure to icy winds for only a short period can cause severe pain and numbness. In extreme conditions, uncovered skin may freeze within minutes. Daily routines that seem simple in ordinary prisons become much harder in Alaska's climate. Walking through snow-covered prison yards requires caution because icy surfaces increase the risk of slipping and injuries. Outdoor work assignments become physically exhausting as the body burns more energy trying to stay warm. Even breathing cold air for long periods can create discomfort and health problems. Food and nutrition also play an important role in survival. In freezing environments, the human body needs more energy to maintain warmth. Prison kitchens must provide enough calories to help inmates endure the cold conditions. However, prison meals are often basic and repetitive, which can leave inmates physically drained and emotionally frustrated over time. Medical challenges are another major concern. Cold weather can worsen existing illnesses such as asthma, arthritis, and heart problems. Access to medical care may become more difficult during severe snowstorms or emergencies. Prison staff must constantly monitor inmates for signs of cold-related sickness, dehydration, or mental breakdowns caused by stress and isolation. Mental survival is just as difficult as physical survival. The harsh environment creates feelings of hopelessness, loneliness, and emotional exhaustion. Long winters with little sunlight can damage mental health and lead to depression, anxiety, and anger. Many inmates struggle to stay motivated because the freezing surroundings make prison life feel even more isolated from the outside world. Social survival inside the prison is equally challenging. Inmates often form groups or alliances for protection and support. Tensions rise easily in stressful conditions, and conflicts can quickly turn violent. Prisoners must constantly balance caution, trust, and self-defense while living in close quarters with others facing the same pressures. For prison guards and staff, survival challenges are also intense. They must maintain security, handle emergencies, and continue daily operations despite dangerous weather conditions. Snowstorms, icy roads, and freezing temperatures make transportation and communication difficult. Staff members work under constant stress because they are responsible for keeping order in an environment where both nature and human behavior can become unpredictable. The extreme environment forces everyone inside the prison to develop resilience and discipline. People must learn how to manage fear, stress, and physical exhaustion while adapting to conditions that remain unforgiving every single day. The psychological pressure inside Alaska's deadliest prison is one of the most devastating aspects of life behind bars. While the freezing temperatures and harsh environment create physical suffering, the mental and emotional strain often becomes an even greater challenge. Inmates are forced to live in constant isolation, surrounded by darkness, silence, and uncertainty, which slowly affects their minds over time. One of the biggest psychological burdens comes from the long and brutal winters. In many parts of Alaska, daylight becomes extremely limited during certain months. Some days offer only a few hours of sunlight, while others feel almost completely dark. This lack of natural light can deeply affect human emotions and mental stability. Prisoners often lose their sense of time, motivation, and connection to the outside world. Days begin to feel repetitive, empty, and endless. Isolation inside the prison increases these mental struggles. Many inmates spend long hours confined to small cells with very little social interaction. The silence can become overwhelming, especially during winter nights when storms and darkness surround the prison. Without regular emotional support, prisoners may begin to feel forgotten by society, family, and even themselves. This emotional loneliness can slowly lead to depression and hopelessness. Fear and anxiety are also constant psychological pressures. Inmates live under strict rules and harsh discipline while also worrying about violence, conflicts, and survival within the prison population. The extreme environment creates tension among prisoners, and many feel they must always stay alert to avoid danger. Living in a constant state of stress can damage mental health and make it difficult for inmates to trust others or feel safe. The harsh climate itself adds another layer of emotional suffering. Endless snow, freezing winds, and dark skies create a cold and lifeless atmosphere that can affect a person's mood every day. Unlike prisons in warmer regions, Alaska's environment offers little comfort or relief. The outside world appears frozen and distant, making prisoners feel trapped not only by walls and fences, but also by nature itself. Many inmates struggle with anger and frustration caused by confinement and lack of control over their lives. Small disagreements can quickly grow into serious conflicts because stress levels remain high. Some prisoners become emotionally numb, while others experience emotional breakdowns due to constant pressure. Mental exhaustion often builds slowly, making it difficult for inmates to remain hopeful or emotionally stable. The lack of meaningful activities and limited opportunities for recreation can worsen psychological problems. Inmates who spend too much time without purpose may begin overthinking, reliving past mistakes, or feeling consumed by regret. The mind can become a dangerous place when people are trapped in isolation for long periods without healthy distractions or emotional support systems. Sleep problems are also common due to stress, anxiety, and the unusual daylight patterns in Alaska. Some prisoners struggle with insomnia, while others feel constantly tired and emotionally drained. Poor sleep further damages mental health, increasing irritability, sadness, and emotional instability. Over time, these conditions can weaken a person's ability to think clearly or cope with prison life. For prison staff, psychological pressure is equally serious. Guards work in an environment filled with tension, isolation, and unpredictable behavior. Constant exposure to violence, extreme weather, and emotionally distressed inmates can lead to stress, burnout, and emotional fatigue. Staff members must remain mentally strong while managing dangerous situations and maintaining order under difficult conditions. The psychological pressure inside Alaska's deadliest prison demonstrates how extreme environments can affect the human mind as much as the human body. The combination of darkness, isolation, fear, stress, and emotional exhaustion creates a constant mental battle that shapes everyday life within the prison walls. Life inside Alaska's deadliest prison is filled with severe physical hardships that affect inmates and prison staff every single day. The extreme cold, dangerous weather, and harsh living conditions place enormous strain on the human body. Survival requires constant physical endurance because the environment itself becomes a daily obstacle that cannot be ignored. The freezing temperatures are the most immediate physical challenge. During winter, the cold can become so intense that even stepping outside for a short period feels painful. Inmates exposed to icy winds risk frostbite, hypothermia, and other serious cold-related injuries. Fingers, toes, ears, and exposed skin are especially vulnerable. Without proper protection, the body can quickly lose heat, leading to numbness, weakness, and dangerous health complications. Simple tasks become physically exhausting in such conditions. Walking through snow-covered prison yards requires extra effort because thick snow and ice make movement difficult. Slippery surfaces increase the risk of falls and injuries, especially during storms when visibility is low. Prisoners assigned to outdoor duties must work while battling freezing winds that drain energy from the body. The cold constantly forces muscles to tense, causing physical fatigue and discomfort. Inside the prison, conditions may still remain harsh despite heating systems. Older buildings can feel damp and cold, especially during severe weather. Heating problems or poor insulation can make cells uncomfortable for long periods. Inmates often sleep in cold environments that make rest difficult and prevent proper physical recovery. Constant exposure to low temperatures weakens the body over time and increases the risk of illness. Physical health problems are common in such environments. Respiratory illnesses can spread more easily because cold air affects the lungs and breathing system. Conditions like asthma and bronchitis often become worse in freezing climates. Joint pain, arthritis, and muscle stiffness are also major issues, especially for older inmates. The body struggles to function normally when constantly exposed to extreme weather and stress. Nutrition and hydration create additional physical hardships. The body burns more calories in cold temperatures as it tries to stay warm, which means inmates need enough food and energy to maintain their strength. However, prison meals are often limited and repetitive, making it difficult for some prisoners to stay physically healthy. Dehydration can also become a hidden danger because people may not feel thirsty in cold weather even though their bodies still need water. Lack of physical activity during long winters can further damage health. Harsh weather may limit outdoor recreation or exercise opportunities, causing inmates to spend more time confined indoors. Limited movement can weaken muscles, reduce physical fitness, and contribute to weight gain or other health problems. Staying physically active becomes difficult in an environment where cold temperatures discourage movement. Sleep deprivation is another serious physical hardship. Freezing conditions, stress, noise, and emotional tension often interfere with rest. Poor sleep weakens the immune system, reduces energy levels, and makes it harder for inmates to cope with daily life. Over time, exhaustion builds up and affects both physical and mental well-being. Medical treatment can also be more difficult in remote Alaskan prisons. Severe storms and dangerous road conditions may delay transportation, supplies, or emergency medical support. Inmates with serious illnesses or injuries may face additional risks because help is not always immediately available. The isolation of the prison adds to the danger, especially during harsh winter weather. For prison guards and workers, physical hardships are equally demanding. Staff members must patrol icy grounds, work long shifts in dangerous weather, and respond quickly to emergencies despite freezing conditions. Snowstorms, heavy clothing, and physical exhaustion make their duties far more difficult than in ordinary prisons. Many employees experience fatigue and health problems from repeated exposure to extreme cold. The physical hardships inside Alaska's deadliest prison constantly test human endurance. Every aspect of daily life, movement, sleep, health, work, and survival becomes more difficult because of the unforgiving climate and harsh prison environment. Violence and tension inside Alaska's deadliest prison are intensified by the extreme environment, emotional stress, and constant struggle for survival. The harsh conditions create an atmosphere where fear, frustration, and aggression can grow quickly. Unlike ordinary prisons, where violence may already be a serious issue, Alaska's freezing climate and isolation add extra pressure that pushes both inmates and staff to their limits. One of the main causes of tension is the constant stress of living in such a harsh environment. Prisoners are confined in crowded spaces while dealing with freezing temperatures, long periods of darkness, and emotional isolation. These conditions create anger, anxiety, and mental exhaustion. Small disagreements that might normally remain minor can quickly become dangerous conflicts because inmates are already under intense pressure. The lack of personal freedom and privacy also increases frustration. Inmates spend long hours surrounded by the same people every day, often with very little opportunity to escape tension or calm down after arguments. Living in close quarters creates competition over space, respect, and resources. Over time, resentment builds, and many prisoners become emotionally unstable due to stress and confinement. Fear plays a major role in prison violence. Many inmates feel they must appear strong at all times in order to avoid becoming targets. Showing weakness can be dangerous in a high-security prison environment, so prisoners often respond aggressively to protect themselves or maintain their reputation. This constant need for self-defense creates an atmosphere of distrust where violence can erupt suddenly. The extreme cold also affects behavior and emotions. Freezing temperatures, uncomfortable living conditions, and lack of sunlight can increase irritability and aggression. The environment itself creates physical discomfort that slowly wears down patience and emotional control. Prisoners living under these conditions may become more easily angered, especially during long winters when isolation and darkness feel endless. Gang activity and inmate alliances often become stronger in dangerous prison environments. Prisoners may join groups for protection, support, or access to resources. These alliances can create power struggles inside the prison, leading to intimidation, fights, and organized violence between rival groups. Loyalty and survival become closely connected, making conflicts even more intense and difficult to control. Limited opportunities for positive activities can further increase tension. When inmates have little access to education, recreation, or meaningful work, boredom and frustration grow. Without healthy ways to release stress, emotions can turn into aggression. Long periods of inactivity allow anger and resentment to build, creating a dangerous emotional environment inside the prison. Prison staff also face constant pressure while managing violence and maintaining security. Guards must remain alert at all times because conflicts can happen unexpectedly. The combination of dangerous inmates and harsh weather conditions makes their job extremely difficult. Officers often work long shifts under stressful circumstances, knowing that a single mistake could lead to serious injury or loss of control within the facility. Emergency situations become even more dangerous in Alaska's extreme climate. During snowstorms or freezing conditions, movement inside and outside the prison becomes harder, making it more difficult for guards to respond quickly to violent incidents. Isolation from nearby towns or emergency services can increase the risk during major conflicts or disturbances. Mental health problems among inmates also contribute to rising violence and tension. Depression, anxiety, hopelessness, and emotional instability can cause prisoners to act unpredictably. Some inmates struggle to control their emotions after long periods of stress and isolation. Emotional breakdowns may lead to fights, self-harm, or attacks on staff and other prisoners. The atmosphere inside the prison is often filled with suspicion and fear. Inmates constantly observe one another, trying to avoid threats while protecting themselves from potential danger. Trust becomes rare, and survival instincts dominate daily interactions. Even simple conversations or misunderstandings can quickly escalate because tension remains high at all times. The increased violence and tension inside Alaska's deadliest prison reflect the powerful impact that extreme environments can have on human behavior. The combination of isolation, emotional stress, harsh weather, and survival pressure creates a dangerous atmosphere where conflict becomes part of everyday life. Discipline is one of the most important factors for survival inside Alaska's deadliest prison. In an environment where extreme cold, isolation, and constant danger are part of daily life, maintaining strict order becomes essential for both inmates and prison staff. Without discipline, the harsh conditions could quickly lead to chaos, violence, and life-threatening situations. Every routine, rule, and procedure inside the prison is designed to maintain control and ensure survival in one of the world's toughest environments. For inmates, discipline begins with following daily schedules and prison regulations. Every movement inside the facility is carefully controlled, from meal times and work assignments to recreation and cell inspections. Prisoners must adapt to a strict routine because any disruption can create tension or security risks. In such a dangerous environment, structure helps prevent confusion and keeps daily operations functioning smoothly. The extreme climate makes discipline even more important. Prisoners must follow safety procedures whenever they move outdoors in freezing temperatures. Wearing proper winter clothing, limiting exposure to icy weather, and obeying instructions during storms are necessary for survival. Ignoring these precautions can lead to frostbite, hypothermia, or serious accidents. In Alaska's deadly cold, discipline is not only about obeying authority, but also about protecting human life. Discipline also plays a major role in controlling violence and maintaining peace inside the prison. Inmates live under constant emotional pressure, and conflicts can easily become dangerous if rules are ignored. Strict enforcement of prison policies helps reduce fights, intimidation, and disorder. Guards rely on discipline to maintain authority and prevent situations from escalating into large-scale violence or riots. For prison staff, discipline is critical because their responsibilities are extremely demanding. Guards must remain alert and professional at all times while managing dangerous inmates in harsh weather conditions. Every action must follow security protocols to avoid mistakes that could threaten safety. Staff members are trained to respond quickly to emergencies, maintain control during conflicts, and handle stressful situations calmly despite exhaustion or emotional pressure. Emergency preparedness is another area where discipline becomes essential. Alaska's severe weather can create unexpected crises such as snowstorms, freezing equipment failures, or medical emergencies. Both inmates and staff must know exactly how to react during these situations. Organized procedures and disciplined responses can save lives when conditions become dangerous. Mental discipline is equally important for survival. The isolation, darkness, and emotional stress inside the prison can weaken a person's ability to think clearly and remain stable. Inmates who develop self-control and emotional discipline are often better able to manage anger, fear, and hopelessness. Staying mentally focused helps prisoners avoid unnecessary conflicts and maintain some sense of personal strength despite difficult conditions. Daily routines also provide psychological stability. In such a harsh environment, repetition and structure help people maintain a sense of order in their lives. Simple habits such as cleaning cells, attending work assignments, exercising, or following schedules can create a feeling of control in an otherwise overwhelming environment. Without discipline, boredom, frustration, and emotional instability may quickly grow stronger. Discipline affects communication and relationships inside the prison as well. Inmates who fail to respect prison rules or social boundaries often create tension with others. Learning when to speak, when to stay calm, and how to avoid dangerous situations becomes part of surviving prison life. Many prisoners understand that self-control and discipline can protect them from unnecessary trouble and violence. The prison system itself depends on discipline to function in such extreme conditions. Transportation, food distribution, security checks, heating systems, and emergency operations all require careful coordination. Every person inside the prison, from guards to maintenance workers, must follow procedures accurately because even small failures can create serious risks in Alaska's unforgiving climate. In Alaska's deadliest prison, discipline is far more than punishment or control. It becomes a survival tool that helps people manage fear, maintain order, and endure the physical and emotional hardships of living in one of the harshest prison environments in the world. Human resilience is one of the most powerful and inspiring aspects of life inside Alaska's deadliest prison. Despite the freezing temperatures, harsh living conditions, emotional isolation, and constant pressure, many inmates continue to find ways to survive mentally, emotionally, and physically. Their ability to endure such extreme hardships demonstrates the strength of the human spirit even in environments designed around punishment and confinement. Life inside the prison constantly tests a person's limits. Every day brings challenges such as brutal cold, loneliness, fear, strict routines, and emotional stress. Over time, these conditions can break a person's confidence and hope. Yet many inmates refuse to completely surrender to despair. Instead, they adapt to the environment and learn how to survive through patience, mental toughness, and determination. One of the most important forms of resilience is mental strength. Inmates who survive the emotional pressure of prison life often develop ways to control their thoughts and emotions. Some prisoners create daily routines to stay focused and avoid falling into hopelessness. Others practice self-discipline, meditation, reading, or personal reflection to maintain emotional stability. These small habits help them protect their minds from the negative effects of isolation and stress. Education becomes a major source of resilience for many prisoners. Some inmates spend their time studying books, learning new skills, or completing educational programs offered inside the prison. Learning gives them a sense of purpose and achievement in an environment where freedom is limited. Education also helps inmates imagine a future beyond prison walls, allowing them to maintain hope despite difficult circumstances. Faith and spirituality also play an important role in helping inmates endure prison life. Many prisoners turn to religion, prayer, or spiritual practices for comfort and inner strength. Belief systems can provide emotional support during times of fear, loneliness, and suffering. For some inmates, faith becomes a source of peace that helps them survive emotionally in a harsh and isolated environment. Friendship and human connection are another important part of resilience. Even in dangerous prison environments, some inmates build supportive relationships with others. Having someone to talk to, trust, or rely on can reduce feelings of loneliness and emotional exhaustion. Small acts of kindness or understanding can have a powerful effect in a place where life often feels cold and hostile. Physical resilience is equally important. Prisoners must adapt their bodies to survive freezing temperatures and physically demanding conditions. Some inmates maintain strength through exercise, healthy routines, and careful self-care despite limited resources. Developing physical endurance helps them cope with the daily hardships created by Alaska's extreme climate. Resilience also appears in inmates who seek personal change and redemption. Some prisoners use their time in prison to reflect on past mistakes and work toward becoming better individuals. They may focus on controlling anger, improving behavior, or preparing for a different future after release. The difficult conditions force many inmates to confront themselves emotionally and mentally, leading some to develop greater self-awareness and maturity. Prison staff demonstrate resilience as well. Guards, medical workers, and employees face extreme stress while working in dangerous conditions every day. They must continue performing their duties despite freezing weather, emotional tension, and the constant possibility of violence. Maintaining professionalism and emotional stability in such an environment requires enormous mental and physical endurance. The harsh environment of Alaska's deadliest prison often reveals how adaptable human beings can become when faced with extreme hardship. People learn to survive conditions that may once have seemed impossible. Over time, they develop coping mechanisms, emotional control, and inner strength that help them endure both the physical dangers and psychological pressure of prison life. Human resilience inside the prison is not about comfort or easy success. It is about continuing to move forward despite fear, suffering, and isolation. It reflects the human ability to adapt, survive, and hold on to hope even in one of the coldest and most unforgiving environments imaginable. Alaska's deadliest prison raises serious questions about justice, punishment, and rehabilitation. The extreme conditions inside such facilities force society to examine the true purpose of prisons and how human beings should be treated, even after committing crimes. While prisons are designed to protect society and punish offenders, the harsh environment of an Alaskan prison creates debate about whether these conditions go beyond punishment and begin to affect basic human dignity and mental well-being. One of the central questions is whether prisons should focus mainly on punishment or on helping inmates rebuild their lives. In Alaska's extreme environment, prisoners face not only confinement but also severe cold, emotional isolation, limited sunlight, and constant psychological pressure. Some people believe these harsh conditions are part of the consequences of criminal behavior. Others argue that no prison environment should become so severe that it damages a person physically or mentally beyond recovery. The issue of rehabilitation becomes especially important in such prisons. Rehabilitation aims to help inmates change their behavior, gain education, develop skills, and prepare for life after release. However, extreme environments can make rehabilitation more difficult. Long winters, emotional stress, and isolation may reduce motivation and increase depression or hopelessness among prisoners. When survival becomes the main focus of daily life, personal growth and positive change may become harder to achieve. Mental health is another major concern connected to justice and rehabilitation. Many inmates in harsh prison conditions suffer from anxiety, depression, emotional instability, or trauma. Isolation and darkness can worsen these problems over time. Critics of extreme prison conditions argue that prisoners with severe mental health struggles need treatment and support rather than environments that intensify emotional suffering. This creates debate about how prison systems should balance security, punishment, and mental health care. Human rights organizations often question whether certain prison conditions are too harsh or inhumane. In extremely cold and isolated prisons, concerns may include poor living conditions, limited medical access, lack of mental health support, and prolonged emotional stress. These debates force governments and prison systems to consider how far punishment should go and what standards should exist for humane treatment inside correctional facilities. Another important issue is the effect of prison conditions on inmate behavior. Some experts believe excessively harsh environments may increase anger, aggression, and emotional damage rather than encouraging rehabilitation. Prisoners who experience constant fear, violence, or hopelessness may leave prison more emotionally unstable than when they entered. This raises concerns about whether certain prison systems truly reduce crime or simply create deeper emotional and psychological problems. The remote location of Alaska's prisons also creates challenges related to fairness and family connection. Many inmates are separated from their families by great distances, making visits difficult and expensive. Limited contact with loved ones can increase emotional isolation and weaken support systems that are important for rehabilitation. Family relationships often help prisoners maintain hope and prepare for reintegration into society, but distance and harsh weather can make those connections difficult to maintain. Questions about justice also extend to prison staff and working conditions. Guards and employees operate under intense pressure in dangerous environments. They must manage violence, emotional tension, and extreme weather while maintaining order and professionalism. The stress of working in such conditions can affect their mental health and decision-making, which may influence how inmates are treated.